One of the things I hope they don't do, and this is going to be my favorite part of the pod because it's where we pitch, y'all. We love pitching an idea, and hopefully the mole takes it back to its overlords and like suggests it for us. But one of the things about pivoting, which we hope it's not a hard pivot, is that like if they do believe that the average audience, the average viewer on the CW is 58 years old, please remember that not every 58-year-old is simply watching like old reruns of things, that like they too love diverse content. Like don't be ageist and with your pitches, y'all. But for our pitches, like we're gonna start, bear with us, y'all, because I know some of y'all don't like reboots and cannot stand a revival. But that's what we're launching
aren't we
with.
on record of saying like the CW needs to cut it out with the reboots?
We are, but you know what? We're in the flop era, and they're gonna need a reboot to help lift them.
Yeah, we can be wishy-washy because if that's what they need, we're gonna give them some ideas. If they're dead set on reboots, we're gonna be like, okay, then let's do it. All in. We're all in.
Yes, and Out the Gate is one that we already talked about before, and so we're gonna pitch it again: a One Tree Hill revival.
That would be interesting. What was my pitch for? It was like just the three women, like and just like that. Like, I still think that would be a really good idea.
Yeah, you said minimal teens. Like it needs to focus on.
I don't need the next generation. I need what we all care about, which is Brooke, Peyton, and Haley.
Yes, and
I don't want to speak for everybody. That's what I care about. I just said we all care about.
I do too, though. I mean that if we're gonna again trying to shoot for older audiences, next generation is not the way to go. You need the three mains.
Yeah, it would be a really good progression from their rewatch podcast, and fully they've been reclaiming this legacy that was kind of taken from them from events that you can Google. We won't get into that here, but it would be a really nice thing for them to be able to fully reclaim it and take it back and do, whether it's a limited series like Gilmore Girls did or whatever. I think it'd be really cool to see these characters again on the actresses' terms, so they can create a safe environment to express these characters that have defined a generation and continue to inspire people.
It would be really fun as a limited series, like cute 13 episodes, perhaps release it in the summer when the lineup is not as hot as it would be for the fall. Cheerleading camp, perhaps, for whatever reason they have to go back, or a reunion of some kind.
Yeah, and I think that it would put less pressure on them having to round up the full cast, because I think that's where headaches start. It's like you have to lock down like 10 people, but if you have just characters we love popping in for like cameos, that'd be perfect.
It would be. Okay, that's definitely on the list of it should come out in 2024. No, 2023. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
And then this was a joke, but it kind of like would work on the CW, but Murder, She Wrote.
Black. There is one bankable thing about network television in today's day and age. It's a procedural, and we don't need more procedurals on TV. But one thing CW does really well is genre procedurals. You've seen it in the superhero shows over the years. Nancy Drew is now an example of it as well. It's where it's like seeped in a genre of something else, some other type of fiction, and it also lends itself nicely to the episode of the week format. And I don't think you'll find a more successful example of that than Murder, She Wrote. When it aired on CBS in the 90s, in the 80s and the 90s, it had like 40 million, 30 million viewers weekly. That many people were tuning into it. And then CBS stupidly moved it to so it clashed with Friends, and the ratings fell to like 16 million, and then it was cancelled. Imagine getting cancelled with 16 million viewers. But I think that if the CW is trying to appeal to an older audience but maintain a younger audience at the same time, a show like Murder, She Wrote would be a successful kind of niche, because it's the original is still on TV today. It's syndicated all around the world, all over the place. You can find it in any country on any channel, and it's so popular. Young people tune into it because it's a safe show to watch, even with the heavy material, and older people either remember it from back in the day or they're just addicted to the fiction genre. And when I look back growing up at some of the shows that were on TV, it and another example I'll get to in a moment, Ghost Whisperer, are two that I always hold up really, really has high examples of that procedural format, but they were also very special to me because me, my brother, and my granny would sit and watch them all the time together. And I think that's an example of how it appeals, how both of those shows appeal to multiple generations. So I think if you wanted to do a Murder She Wrote reboot, I would prefer a revival, but the best we're going to get is a standalone movie from Angela Lansbury. So let's go for a reboot. Again, just do what they did with the original. Cast a slightly mature actress, maybe in her late 30s, 40s, somewhat a big name that can get attention in, and then expect people to tune in for Adventure of the Week. And if you have to add an overall arc to it, do it. But I just think Murder, She Wrote is such a like glossy property that I'm shocked a revival or a reboot has not happened yet. So I think that could definitely help reboot the CW, especially the fact that the original is owned by CBS and they're still in partnership with CBS. So that feels obvious. And then Ghost Whisperer, that's my other end of the coin. I would prefer a revival of that because Jennifer Love Hewitt would absolutely be down for doing it. Again, it was aired on CBS, so I'm sure they could make it work. I think it was produced by ABC, so if they want to open their doors to ABC, make it happen. It was one of the most popular shows of its generation. It brought in killer ratings every Friday night, and for some reason CBS cancelled it. Never made any sense. People have been crying out for a revival for years. Launch the CW with a Jennifer Love Hewitt revival. I just think that would be so cool. So yeah, they're my two examples of that. I think Murder, She Wrote and Ghost Whisperer have so much in common, but I think a Murder, She Wrote reboot and a Ghost Whisperer revival would be excellent additions to the lineup.
I can't believe they haven't pursued Ghost Whisperer yet.
Right?
That's shocking.
Now's the opportunity. That was the opportunity. So
didn't they like 10 years ago try to reboot Murder, She Wrote, and Angela was like, absolutely not on my watch.
Oh,
was that something that happened? Was it Octavia Spencer?
I think it was supposed to go ahead and it didn't. There's a lot of reboots now in the last 10 years that never went ahead. The same thing happened with Bewitched as well, I think, and Buffy. So I just,
yeah,
I
think it's a really good idea though. Like it doesn't need to be like CW, like sexy and like she's a young sleuth. I like your idea of making the character more mature to appeal to various demographics.
Exactly. I think that's the appeal of Murder, She Wrote. It reels so many people from so many different generations in, and it's very easy watching. So again, why not just try to recreate the success of the original? I think the thing that the current CW does is it tends to remake things maybe too much, that it alienates fans of the original. I think if it really wanted to make a Murder, She Wrote reboot work, it would take what worked in the original and just slightly modify it for a modern audience. And with a show like that, very little needs modified.
I think they could do a best of both worlds thing. And I'm not sure if a backdoor movie thing is like a thing that people do, but if they wanted to do a Murder, She Wrote movie with the lead actress, and then the new, like for the reboot actress would be related to her in some fashion, or perhaps just a woman that she'd worked with before, who then takes on the role, and then we get the Murder, She Wrote show. That's a good way of not alienating people because there's a connection.
Yeah, definitely. So then it is kind of like a revival. It's a sequel, but at the same time, it's a reboot. I actually really like that. Yeah.
It's like passing the torch.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let Angela Lansbury have one more run and then kick off the new series in the process.
Oh, and that could be like an event, like it could be appointment television for the CW.
Definitely. Oh,
CW
I like
heads,
that.
I hope you have a notebook. Like, I hope you all are taking notes. Get the pen out and the paper.
We're giving you great ideas to bridge the gap between the teens and the 58-year-olds.
Yes. Next up is Ally McBeal.
There is reportedly an Ally McBeal revival in the works.
Really? I didn't hear that.
Yes.
Is Callista involved?
Apparently so, yes. And she does not do television that often.
She doesn't.
It could not, I will lead with this. It cannot be filmed in Vancouver because she could not come over for seasons 2 to 6 of Supergirl. So do not try to film it in Vancouver.
Michael's already scouting locations.
She will work in LA. Make it happen. Yeah, so there is apparently an Ally McBeal revival in the works. It has been a long time since we've heard head nor tail of it. But I do remember it caught fire when the announcement was made because Callista Flockhart, obviously she works in her location. That's why she got season 1 of Supergirl. But then she couldn't do the rest of the show when it moved to Vancouver. But with the CW's connection to Supergirl, it was one of their most popular shows. Everybody loves Callista Flockhart. And just the thought of seeing her back on TV in her most famous role is just incredible. And the fact is, a lot of people would tune into that because Ally McBeal was just, it feels like probably one of the biggest shows of its time that hasn't got the chance to find that second life that so many other shows of that time have. And I think a revival could do it wonders. And I know that parts of it were that the character was somewhat vain and that she was terrified of growing old. So I think that a revival set when she is in her more mature years, I think that's absolutely genius. It would be wonderful to see how that character would process that and deal with it. We all love female-led television. Callista Flockhart is a wonderful actress. The CW fans would tune in to see her because of the Supergirl connection. The Ally McBeal fans would tune in to see it because it's Ally McBeal. And I just feel like that would generate so much buzz. A lot of the CW reboots and revivals maybe target at the wrong kind of generation, whereas Ally McBeal feels like one of those first real internet sensations right when the internet was in its infancy. So could you imagine what it would be like now, both with those original fans coming back and this current internet generation? I think that'd be a great idea.
Did you watch the show, Michael?
I have not. My brother has, and he adored it. And my mom watched it in the 90s as well. So I would watch it just so I could tune in for the revival. You know, I would watch anything with Callista in it.
Yeah, because I was wondering if it's like, I don't know anything about the show besides it was really popular and it's a legal drama. But I was wondering if it was like canon that she had a child or something, because it feels like now that child would be like in their 20s. It could be like the next, like,
Oh, nice.
not like the next generation, but like being a mentor from her, or using her mother as a mentor or something. And I think it would be a really cool way to open the door. I know they always use like children as like the stepping stone to bringing a show back.
Yeah.
And it can get kind of tired, but if it was about her like fearing getting old, seeing that reflected in like her adult daughter or son would be really interesting.
Well, our producer Mike says she has a daughter. So again, CW, take notes. I mean, that would be so fun. Also, there's the possibility of Lucy Liu coming back, even if it's just for a short arc. So again, see, big name actors and actresses. Like CW has a WB, CBS, and CW has a catalog to draw from. Like we don't have to do television for older people that's like new and fresh and like them starting out from zero. It can be like stories about like what beloved characters are doing now that they're in their more mature years. And I hope like that's going to be the case if they do that. They also need, if we're going to make room for a legal drama, we also have to make room for some family comedies. And if they did a limited series and we return to Reba with Reba McEntire, that'd be so fun. I mean, she's scorching up the earth as it is in the upcoming like Lifetime movie, The Hammer, and she'll be in Big Sky playing a villain for season 3. So it's Miss Reba is out here, and perhaps she can come back to the CW.
People love that show. It's not at the level as like Friends, but it is constantly in reruns on TV. And it was like an edgy family drama, but it was like wholesome, and we know wholesome is the buzzword at the new CW. So it feels like a good bridge between the like the sensibilities of yesteryear and the future. I think Reba could do it, not to put all of that on her shoulders, but it would be a fun callback to back in the day.
It would be, and we need a little bit of laughter on the CW, and
we're not getting much of it.
We're not getting much of it, and it's still because Reba was a little on the edgy side. I mean, it's about a woman whose family becomes blended because her husband leaves her for his assistant at the dentist's office, and then that woman, like at one point, she's living in the house with her, isn't she not?
I don't know. They live next door, I think.
Oh, okay.
And the oldest daughter was pregnant as a teenager. It really got into the issues.
It did. And like somehow, like it still managed to be, even though it had a heavy subject matter, because that's real heavy. I mean, like her ex-husband put her through a lot, but it was like funny. It was so funny, and she was great in it.
Mm-hmm. I'd say it's underrated, even though it's probably not, because people really do love that show, but it does feel underrated a little bit.
It does. It doesn't come up in the conversations of family comedies as much as I would like it to. It needs to, though.
Yeah, CW, bring it back. Call
I
Reba.
know. Call Reba. And then there's 21 Jump Street, which admittedly I have not watched the shows or
I've only seen the
the
movies.
movies.
I've only seen the movies.
I haven't seen either, but I know that the Fan Side Entertainment fam was talking about 21 Jump Street at one point. I think Cody was binged it. I can't remember now.
Did he?
I think so. It was one of our random conversations. It just split and then bled into other things. but like I think like if they're gonna do procedurals and they're still trying to like entertain a younger audience, having two undercover cops in a high school trying to track something down could be fun, as long as they don't lean too far into the comedy and still let it be like maybe be a dramedy. It's a little it'd be a reboot. It's a known IP. People would check it out just to see what it's gonna do on the network, and it still fits into CW's brand, even though they don't really do cop dramas. It's Walker, and that's it.
You know, I'm not as familiar with that, but I have to say it again, like Ally McBeal feels like one of those shows that defined a generation, and I also think it's old enough that a reboot or a revival on the CW would absolutely draw that kind of attention. I know we talked about maybe CW recently going for shows that were more modern. You're like, why did we need to reboot that so soon? But I feel like that one's a good choice, just like the ones Ally McBeal, Ghost Whisperer, Murder, She Wrote, that it's far enough removed from the original that it would generate enough interest and buzz, and also wouldn't be confused with the movies at the same time.
Yeah. Oh, it's a little thing we can put to the side. It's an option. I'll put a little star next to it.
We like our options.
Yes. And this one, Felicity, starring Millie Bobby Brown, came from a conversation we had in the group chat. And I'm like, it should happen. Someone call Millie.
When you said Millie as the lead of this reboot, it got so serious for me, because I've been screaming about Felicity as much as I can. Anytime I get the chance, I scream about Felicity because I love that show. Your dream casting is just spot on and perfect. I don't know if it would ever happen realistically, because Millie is booked and absolutely busy. Oh my God, but if she ever does TV again after Stranger Things, it would just be perfect. I don't know if it would be like a revival, because as much as I would love to see Carrie Russell back, she's amazing. But it would be really cool to see how they repackage what that show was in the modern age, because it was about this girl with really big feelings that would use her tape recorder to record, like it was like a audio diary that she sent to her French tutor. It was really random. I don't know why she did that. But like in these days, you're not going to see a college freshman in her dorm room with a tape recorder. She'd be like, what, sending voice notes on iMessage? I don't know. I think it would be really fun to get back to, it wasn't a teen drama, even though they were, I guess, 19. It was a mature drama. Like my mom loved Felicity when it was on. So like, that's the kind of mature show, not just like in who you're casting, but like the content, like the storytelling. It was very mature. It didn't try to like water anything down. And I think that those kind of shows will appeal to the 58-year-olds. I'm going to keep saying it because it's ridiculous.
If you were to update it for this generation, I think it would be like Millie would play an influencer of some kind, but she'd have a Patreon where you could access her personal thoughts. And so like there's like there's like a tier where like if you want like talks with Felicity, there would be just her literally just recording herself in whatever alcove she can find, and she just talks about her feelings, and like somehow she creates a community where they don't even release the videos. Everyone's just very protective of her content, and that's how she does her their video diaries now. I think it'd be cute.
I wish the internet was that peaceful in real life.
I know. We'll just call it escapism.
Aspirational.
Yes. Oh God. No, I want it, and we probably won't get it. But
no.
But
it would be amazing, because that show like defined love triangles. That's probably not accurate, but it did for me as a child watching that show. Like it was the start of the ship wars.
Could we have a healthy love triangle?
I mean, probably not. That one was very chaotic, but
Oh.
in like a normal way. I would say it's not like a Riverdale love triangle.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Like these were normal kids in a normal universe.
So CW needs to actually give some normalcy because everybody is out here struggling with supernatural things.
Fighting ghosts, levitating off the ground with curses.
Meditating.
Yeah, meditating on the
Yes,
street.
meditating. So speaking of DC shows,
yeah, speaking of
though,
DC, Michael, it's your time.
I spoke that into existence. So look, we talk about tools the CW can benefit from by opening its doors, but let's talk about some of the tools now the CW can benefit from that they've been benefiting from for the last decade, which is why it would be ridiculous to lose them. And of course, yes, it's me. We're talking about DC. So there are a lot of things we could work with to appeal to a mature audience. DC does appeal to a mature audience, but some of the more recent DC shows have not. So there's your issue, and I don't think Gotham Knights will bridge that gap to the 58-year-olds. I'm sorry. I'm just going to go on record and say that now. The show could be so much better than the trailer would suggest, but it doesn't look like a show that the average 58-year-old would say, I'm going to tune into that, watch Batman die in the first episode, and then get obsessed with all these teens over. I don't think that's the way it's going to go. So I think if we're looking, we need to go a bit more mature. And what screams mature to me when I think of DC? I think if I'm talking CW, I have to go with the first choice, which would be bring back Swamp Thing. Everybody was stunned when Swamp Thing came to CW because it was originally a DC Universe show, a very mature DC Universe show that streamed on the DC Universe. And in spite of it being incredibly successful, there was mumbo jumbo happening behind the scenes that resulted in it getting cancelled after just one episode, but they had the 10 episode season produced. So they aired the 10 episode season, it received critical acclaim, and then nothing happened. 2 years later, when the CW needed acquisitions, they aired the 10 episode season. It was heavily cut, but it did not affect the show whatsoever. And it produced great ratings for the CW, probably better ratings than anything else at the time. And everyone's like, what can you bring us to season 2? Can you bring us to season 2? And that never happened. They did say that they could introduce the Swamp Thing character on Legends of Tomorrow, but that ain't happening now. So I feel like Swamp Thing was one of those critically acclaimed shows that appealed to an older audience. But I'm sure there were a lot of young people tuning in that shouldn't have been. Regardless, it appealed to everyone. It's a horror series. And again, CW made it work even by cutting it. So season 2, if they brought it back for a season 2, it could be curtailed. I still think it would work, and I do think it would generate the buzz they're hoping it would. I absolutely think it would be. So I think if you're going to lead with new I say new, it's a comeback, but if you're going to lead with DC newer properties that people would tune into, Swamp Thing is one of them. The other one was a choice or suggestion you, Sabrina, had, and I think it's a great idea, of a Renee Montoya series. Yeah, I think that's a class character.
Who is she?
She is a GCPD detective. She was originally introduced in the classic Batman the Animated Series. That's how I knew her from, what I knew her from when I was growing up. That series introduced so many characters, but over the years, that character was introduced into the comics. Her love life became a big part of her character. It was a lesbian, and she had many female relationships, or relationships with other females, famous females from DC Comics. And you saw that portrayed in Batwoman when Renee had an incredible relationship with Poison Ivy. And I really feel like she's such a well-established, lovable character, and she's always a supporting character in so much. It would be so cool to see her lead her own stories. And I just think Gotham City is full of potential, and it doesn't have to be a Batman show. You can reference him saying he's off doing this or whatever, or do what Batwoman didn't write about entirely. But I could just, the idea of seeing Renee Montoya clean up every week. And again, that lends itself to the procedural nature really nicely, because again, you have the genre, the comic books, but at the same time, you have the adventure of the week. And the CW has worked with that so well. And again, if we're going for a slightly mature audience, focusing on a mature detective, hardened by what she's seen in Gotham City, but also having enough room for a love life, for diversity, which is what the networks need so much right now.
Is that what Gotham was like?
it was kind of like that. I think its first season was more procedural and it was focused on Gordon and Bullock. Renee Montoya was a character in the first season, and then she was written out. Yeah, and then she was written out. And she was played by Victoria Cartagena, who then reprised the role as Renee Montoya on Batwoman. Two different Renee Montoyas though. But how cool would it be if we got her back to play a third Renee Montoya in her own show?
I want her to come back. Yes,
I
want it so bad. It would be, and I think they increasingly keep getting better with Renee Montoya's characterization. Gotham didn't really do her justice, mainly because she was more like a love interest for Barbara Gordon. And then Batwoman was much better. And I'm like, just give her the reins to do a hard-boiled detective story. If this was pre-Nexstar CW, I'd suggest a film noir type of setting. But since that's not where we are, just straightforward cop drama with Renee kicking tail in Gotham, dealing with her home life, with either a girlfriend or a wife, up to them. And, just giving us the gritty Gotham with her having like a heart of gold, but also being very abrasive. she's a little abrasive. So like she would appeal to all those who lean heavily into cop dramas that are like that, where you have usually a dude, usually a white dude, who's like gruff and seen too many things. And he really just wants to keep the streets safe. And he's having a hard time at home, but he's a good man who sees bad things all the time. Like, I don't know, that just seems that
Commissioner Gordon.
Yes. So, but we'd have it with Renee.
Yeah, exactly. Give somebody else the spotlight for a change. And again, I've rambled about how great a character she is. I've seen her from growing up in Batman the Animated Series, seen her in Batwoman, seen her in Gotham, read her comics. I would love to see her get. I also saw her support in Birds of Prey, the movie. I would just love to see that character. Yeah, I would love to see that character lead her own
Birds of Prey.
Rosie Perez, I think. Yeah.
Oh.
Yes. So yes, the great character, full of life, full just waiting to be explored. And I think that bridges the line between CW drama, genre procedural, and comic book drama. And I think they're the three lines the CW needs to go in these days. Imagine if you had a show that ticked all three of them. That would be so cool. And then to stay on the Gotham City route, I did have one other idea, and it's a bit of a predictable one, but it's something I think could be really successful. And it would be a mature Batman anthology series. Comic books are full of incredible stories that people want to see adapted on the screen all the time. And they only get partially adapted in movies because obviously movies have to tell their own stories. Could you imagine a 10-part Batman anthology series that maybe it directly adapts one of Batman's most famous comic book stories? So like Year One, a gritty story about a young Batman starting out and his relationship with Gordon and saving the city. That's a bit predictable. We've seen the origin story before. We don't necessarily need to see it again, but fair enough. Like, there's just an example. And then season 2, instead of having a young Batman, you just cast a different actor as an older Batman to adapt The Dark Knight Returns, a 10-part gritty drama about how Batman comes out of retirement to save a post-apocalyptic Gotham City and then ends up in a war with Superman for no reason whatsoever. Or then season 3, go back into the middle of his career to adapt the story The Long Halloween, where there's a murderer killing people on every holiday and Batman has to go get really detective mode here and solve it. I just think a lot of those stories are low budget, maybe not The War with Superman, but a lot of those stories would make for a good low budget series, and you could absolutely tell them in 10 episodes or whatever. And because you'd be using different actors, because you'd be looking at different parts of his life, and because you'd be adapting different stories, it would feel like a different show all the time. So you wouldn't get tired the way people are tired of maybe other superhero shows which have been on for 8 seasons. Or so it would stay fresh. And when the CW wants to make the effort to make superhero television, they absolutely nail it. And nobody will admit that. But like, say we had a show that delivered 5 Superman at Lois's season 1 standards, like, there you go. Like a 5-season Batman anthology series, each season telling a different story with different actors playing those roles. Think American Horror Story Gotham. So I just think
American Batman story.
Exactly.
Yes. I really like the anthology idea because it feels kind of like low commitment for a network. If you just make a show that with an interesting idea and bill it as like an anthology or limited series, you can make it an event, like make it seem like a must watch. Like, gotta watch it now. And even if it flops, then it's like, oh, well, we tried it and we can move on. But if it's successful, then you have a really good self-contained event series that you can promote the crap out of and bully people into watching. Because if consumers feel like, oh, I need to watch this, everybody's watching it, it's an event, I feel like they will tune in. And especially if it's Batman. Come on.
Exactly.
Yes. It feels like Emmy bait, even though they don't really lean towards genre. But like what you described, Michael, is like, I want this terribly so. And it also would lend a bit of credibility to the CW, which I think they want. Where like, yes, we do fun superhero shows, but also this Batman anthology series is like Chef's Kiss. It's a 10-10. Like that would be their prestige moment.
Michael gets a producer's credit.
Exactly.
I feel like it's so obvious. It's so annoying that no network's done it yet. It feels like streaming bet, which is why I think putting it on a network like the CW when they're trying to get people to tune in would be an absolutely glorious idea, because people would tune in.
It would. And now, okay, that's at the top of my list. For me, like personally, if we were in front of the board of CW and we had our PowerPoint, like the Batman anthology would be number one for me. I don't know how to rank everything else, but the Ally McBeal one would be high.
I think we have a lot of solid ideas.
I think we do too. And then the next one was one that I'm still not sure on why they have not done it yet, considering the CW loves a weird like young adult series, but Scooby-Doo. Where's the Scooby-Doo original? Like for the CW, what's happening?
Yeah, that's right. They should like at least adapt the live action movie, because everyone loves that movie.
Right.
And I'm not saying like bring back that cast, but just like in the vein of that storytelling style, where it was kind of like edgy and some of the jokes were not for kids.
But I fly over their heads, so it's fine.
I was in the theater in 2002 watching Sarah Michelle Gellar and Linda Cardellini and Freddie Prinze Jr., so I don't know.
Feels like there are so many properties out there, and you can go, oh, that's absolutely CW. Like you know what they'd adapt, and now you're not even Powerpuff safe from them. I just feel like Scooby-Doo feels like maybe the one that got away. Like I'm shocked we've made it this far without the CW or even the WB back in the day trying to adapt Scooby-Doo. It feels
like a tough one.
Oh, I agree.
You got to get it right, or it won't look good.
I mean, the amount of things that they put on TV, though, that like weren't right.
True.
Like they could have tried.
No, I mean, if they had Supergirl battling a big like toothy purple parasite, they can make a CGI dog work. We got this.
Purple parasite.
Yeah.
I'll ask you about purple parasite
offline.
Yeah. This next idea, I meant it as a joke, and then it seemed like a really good idea. And now that I'm seeing it again, I'm like, this is so stupid, but it's really funny. Gilligan's Island.
Yes.
Gilligan's Island. But like a gritty, like it's lost.
Yes. No,
like
you got this.
I don't want them to do it, but it was too funny not to include. Like
I want it.
You sold us already.
You did.
I can't get through it though.
Okay, so like we'll try. So Gilligan's Island but lost is what
like
Reed's
lost,
pitches.
but there's still some like silly giggles. I don't know. I don't even think I ever watched Gilligan's Island on Nick at Night, but maybe it's for the best that they haven't rebooted the show, but it does seem inevitable. Like if they are going to do it, the CW should really just put all the chips in the table and just really go for it. Like they're losing Riverdale. Let's do crazy Gilligan's Island.
Let's run through the jungle. Let's like have someone talking to a coconut. Like let's let's have someone be like they cope by flirting. Like they could really just do a lot of like gritty but charming things.
And supernatural, maybe.
Yeah, and they don't have a survival drama, and so they could do that. It'd be new, it'd be fresh, it'd be a risk that they can cancel after one season. I don't know.
It would be intriguing. Like they have to have like what was the thing they had, the movie star, the professor, Ginger. I don't remember, but it just imagining all those castings in like a slightly younger but still old enough to court the 58-year-old. Just seeing that in my head, it's so funny and dumb, but like isn't that the CW in a nutshell?
Yes, and that's why they should do it. Like, even if it's like a limited series, or you know what, a fun little 90-minute movie.
There you go.
But there are a lot of things that the CW needs to do more of. At the top of the list is family dramas that are not genre crossing.
Because we do have Superman and Lois, which we do talk about a lot as being like half of a family show, half of a Superman or superhero show. But like back in the day on the WB, we had like Everwood, which was a show about family with teen drama tucked into it. So it was still accessible to teens and older audiences. And then there's like Gilmore Girls, which I feel like married the same kind of worlds where it was a mature show that also had teen elements that obviously, I mean, look at the staying power of that show. Everyone loves that show of all different ages. And I feel like they kind of walked away from that to shows that are, if they're about teens, it's like you said, genre crossing, and the family angle isn't as prominent because the families are usually based in larger than life trauma. Is that a good way to describe
Very
what's
much so.
happening on Riverdale?
Yes.
It's not like your normal average, like, Dad, stop pressuring me. It's like, Dad, please stop murdering my friends.
Yes.
So like getting back to like that, I'm gonna say wholesome again, but not the end of the wholesome spectrum that is Seventh Heaven, but like the end that is like Everwood and Gilmore Girls, to where it's everyone, there's something for everyone. It's not alienating anybody.
It's realistic
Mhm.
about like the things that parents go through, whether it's a two-parent home or if it's a single parent, or the realistic depictions of what teenagers are going through. Because one of the things that like the CW blows up, but a lot of teen shows do, is while there are teens struggling with addiction and inappropriate relationships and have parents who have murdered people, they're like, the majority of them are not doing all of that. So like, where is the low stakes teen drama, whether it's in a family drama or it's a teen drama itself? I think we need more of those. It doesn't have to be High School Musical, the musical, the series, long title. In any case, it doesn't have to be as cute and sugary as that, even though that show has had its moments. But there needs to be a happy medium of other things that they discuss, like bullying. Where's the public service announcement episode for teenagers?
It feels like the writing for teens now, I mean, teens have always been written by people who are not teenagers. That's just the way it goes. But I feel like nowadays I'm watching shows, and admittedly, I'm not a teenager, but the shows that I liked when I was younger or a teenager, it feels like they didn't write the teenagers in a way that belittled them or like was trying to appeal to the younger generation. They just wrote them as teenagers, or what the writers knew when they were teenagers. And now I'm watching like Pretty Little Liars Original Sin, and I'm like, the things they're saying, it just feels like an older person was through TikTok or reading like Twitter interactions. I'm like, why trying to fold in the slang? Yeah, it gives it kind of like a time and place. Right now, everything is so fleeting that when you include a certain slang word, it's out of style by the time you put it on whatever streaming service you're airing it on. So I feel like not to write teenagers like they're dumb or like there's just like a trend. Like I think about like Dawson's Creek. That was a show that was written very real, as much as like they used SAT vocabulary and like they were just like really way too maybe mature. But it was just kids going through emotions, and they weren't written in any way that was dumbing them down or like talking down to the audience. Like I feel like when I hear these teenagers speak in some of these shows, I'm like, who are you writing for? And what, I feel like I take it personally. I'm like, what do you think of me? Why are you writing like this?
No, I'm so with you on that, and I know Riverdale is an example of that. That like nobody speaks like real people on that show, but like I feel like it goes beyond that into the genre itself, like you said. And like I think the reason so many of these family and teen shows worked is because with teenagers everything is heightened, and I think that's what a lot of the older ones got right, in that they're not high stakes things in the grand scheme of things, but to the teenagers, they are the stakes of the world. They're carrying the weight of the world on their shoulders. They feel everything. And so it's not a case of my doppelganger from a parallel universe has kidnapped the mayor kind of stakes. But it feels like those kind of stakes to them. And like, why can't we have just another Parenthood or another Gilmore Girls? Of course, Superman and Lois has taken the family drama beautifully, but like, why isn't there a show out there like that? Like, I could watch Superman and Lois without any of the hero stuff. It's that good. But why is there no show out there like that that's just 100% family drama, that's just 100% family driven and has that heart 100% of the way through? Whereas nowadays, it's like a lot of the shows have taken the best of that genre and employed it to varying degrees of success, aka Riverdale, and employed it to various other aspects of shows. So you have genre shows that have family elements in it, but it's not the same as those classic nostalgic shows like Gilmore Girls or Parenthood, or even something like Party of Five. It doesn't feel like there's any of that kind of authentic teen drama on television anymore.
Yeah, because we can do high stakes stress, but not have it be the entire conversation. I was thinking when you guys are talking about like low stakes things that are actually high stake to teenagers, I was thinking about Gossip Girl. The I guess it's a revival on HBO Max. They did social media like bullying and the persona that you put on that's different from who you are as a person. But like they, of course, had to blow it up because it's Gossip Girl. But think about what about episodes in which on a teen drama where whatever someone said did go viral, and they're dealing with stuff online, or, they just pissed off somebody in their high school and now the whole high school's not talking to them. Like that's a thing that kids actually do go through. And maybe it's not as blown up as the whole city of New York dumping on Julian Calloway, but like it would be, I don't know, I just think that there needs to be room for more teen dramas that are specifically more realistic to the things that they go through, and not this is what they go through, but also let's blow it up to 1,000 in a situation that they most likely would not have to deal with.
Teen drama, not teen trauma.
Yes. That's the
Another
phrase.
thing that I really want is I'd love for them to work with more people that are producing really good shows right now, like Quinta Brunson, and Michael brought up Melissa I don't know how to say her name.
Melissa Benoist.
Yeah, give us our last name lesson again. But yeah, they have overall deals. They're both at Warner Brothers? Correct me if I'm wrong, right?
I believe so. I know Melissa is, yes.
Okay, yeah, then Quinta is too. It just feels like they should be not stealing from their ideas, because that's a big thing when someone gets a hit show. They try to like, oh, let's make our Abbott. It's like, no, why don't you ask the creator, like, do you have any other ideas? And we'd love to give your ideas a home. And I think it would be so amazing to see Quinta's vision on a grander scale and on a network like the CW, because she's currently, I feel like, the voice of a generation. I can't really speak to what Melissa's doing. Maybe Michael can.
No, but I totally agree with you. Melissa's had an awful lot of input in the later seasons of Supergirl. I'm not sure if she ever got the producer credit, but she definitely had an awful lot of input in making the character that strong woman that we all know and love. And both that and just the fact that she has such an established fan base, I just feel like the Supergirl fans, it didn't necessarily translate to viewers, but they had such a global reach and was perhaps the biggest of any of the Arrowverse shows. I imagine being able to rely on that their kind of inbuilt established fan base to produce a new show. Imagine being able to rely on Melissa's talent to produce a new show. And now part of that deal is that she can't star in them, so it's up to her whether she'd want to do that. But just having her name attached to a property on the CW network, I think would be an absolute hit out of the gate. So
it's a draw for Supergirl fans, even if
exactly
she doesn't.
Very much so. And it would definitely, if it's the Melissa Benoist.
Benoist.
I always want to say, Benoit, and I know you said that's the French pronunciation or something.
Yep.
But like if it was like a Melissa produced show, they're definitely tuning in. And as far as like Quinta Brunson, what I really appreciate about her is her awareness of what television can do for whether it's for a family or it's just for bringing attention to different issues. And in Abbott Elementary's case, it was, being an educator and what that looks like and what that looks like when you're not getting the funding, but also her being aware that the TV could not solve, in this case, America's issues. I loved when she shut people down and when they were asking her about, like, would you do a school shooting? And she was like, absolutely not. For what reason?
Yeah.
This is a comedy. So when you have someone who's aware of the power of television, but also aware of the things that she should be bring attention to and the things that are best served to discuss in the public forum and not be used as entertainment for people to live through other people's trauma for some reason. I just think CW would do well with a voice like that, like hers, because they've had their share of trauma dumping, and we need to stop.
Your hair.
Yeah, I'd love to see Melissa do something like, I don't know, high concept, and I'm imagining Quinta would do something very like grounded, and maybe she could do the family drama that we want, that has a lot of levity and like humor to it.
Yes. Oh yes, please, Quinta. If you get a phone call from the CW, at least entertain it. She might not pick up the phone, but like, please pick it up. I know Melissa would probably entertain it though.
Oh, definitely. Especially if Greg Berlanti's involved, she absolutely would.
And then for unscripted programming, we only have one suggestion right now, and it is one that Reed has already brought up, but we're going to shop it again, and that is Big Brother Teen.
Would the 58-year-olds love that? I don't know, but I still think it would be fun.
You're right, but I think if we're going to court the some of the younger audience, they might. Or no, it's only Big Brother Teen. I don't think there's another Big Brother that you can do unless you did like low budget CW stars, like the third tier.
Yeah, you're right. Let's just do Big Brother Teen.
Yeah. I had known nothing about Big Brother, but I just feel like that would be something that would catch on based on like the ridiculousness that I've seen in some of the photos. I don't know why we're climbing walls. I don't know why we've got groups like, was it Besties, and the Leftovers?
It's the worst. It's the season's twists are just not doing it. It's so cringy, but it's always, I mean, sometimes it gets a little real when we're watching these people and they're saying and doing things that are maybe out of pocket, out of context, and are harmful. But as a show, it's really entertaining and fun. And maybe you could, with the teen demographic, it would be less problematic. I don't know. Maybe I'm putting too much credit on teens, and even more fun. I don't know.
I mean, it could be also low budget. That's what like they said that they're doing. These unscripted programmings are going to be. They didn't say on a shoestring, but I'm gonna assume that's what they mean. You're getting a camera, you're getting some rooms, have fun.
Yeah, just reuse the set in the off season.
Yes. Oh, that'd be so much fun. They're in the Kent house. That's where they're trapped the entire time.